Good evening, woodblock printmaker Dave Bull here, speaking to you from our shop in Asakusa Tokyo. It's time for the annual update on our affairs here at Mokuhankan. As usual, I wait until the shop is closed for the day, pull the shutter down, get the lights and other gear out of the closet, prepare my little stack of props and charts, and get ready to roll. It has been yet another astonishing year for us here at Mokuhankan, as you will see in a few minutes. But even before we look at prints and charts and all the other parts of this update, I think I can mention that the most astonishing part of all this is that somehow we're still here. Now, I don't mean because of the pandemic, that's kind of history at this point, but simply that an organization like ours, with one of the most labor-intensive, slow-paced operations on this planet, can find a path forward in this era of instant gratification, fast fashion, and scroll to the next thing, always to the next thing. I mean, what do you get here at Mokuhankan? Same guy, same counter. I'm going to lift up the same wooden panel in a minute. Oh no, I did get a new shirt this year. Enough already. Let's get going. And actually, now that I've said that, right away, we can see something different. At this point, I usually lift up a panel with all 12 prints from the just completed subscription series, but here we have only 6. If you saw last year's update, you know what is going on. We have 2 sets running concurrently, taking 2 years at a pace of 1 print every 2 months. So here we have the first 6 prints in our Hokusai Reborn series. Prints created from original Hokusai drawings held in the British Museum in London. There will be 12 in all once the set is completed a year from now. But even with only half of the designs present, we can immediately grasp one of the core points of this work, the wide variety of themes that make up Hokusai's collection. It seems that the group of sketches were intended for publication as part of a multi-volume woodblock printed book project. The theme was encyclopedic, but breaks down into a few major groups represented here. We have prints about the roots of Buddhism, Chinese history and mythology. The natural world is also represented in this collection, and these are accompanied by any number of images of people, places, and varied activities. There wasn't anything that Hokusai didn't find interesting. Excuse me. We have separate videos drilling down into the nitty-gritty of how we are making these prints, but for those of you who haven't seen those, I need to bring something important to your attention. I and my team here, and all the other traditional craftsmen in this field here over the past century or so, have made plenty of reproductions of Hokusai woodblock prints before, but all those reproductions were made from existing woodblock prints. Now, when somebody these days makes a reproduction of an ukiyo-e design, something like this here in our shop, we always work from older prints. We have no access to the original brushwork. Now, a totally crazy point about traditional prints is that because it gets pasted onto the wood as a guide for the cutting, the designer's final drawing always gets destroyed as part of the process. Now, what this means in practice is that none, and I mean none, of the present-day carvers in this field up to now have ever had the experience of cutting real Hokusai brush lines. Everybody has been reproducing lines that some previous long-dead carver created from Hokusai's originals. Now, does this matter? Yes, absolutely. My team here, myself and the other men who are doing the carving work on this series, were the first carvers in well over a century, and the only living carvers who have had this experience. Our task is to interpret Hokusai's brushstrokes into something that can be cut and printed. We fix his lines. Now, could Hokusai have ever, in his wildest dreams, it would be a nightmare actually, have imagined such a thing, that some dude from the north of England would one day put knife to wood and cut these lines? Here, let me show you what Hokusai really meant to say. Now, in a word, this is terrifying. And my partners here feel exactly the same way. So, how are we doing? I think, honestly, that we are doing very well. We have not come at this lightly. We have tons of experience, and we have studied everything we can find. we are doing all we can not to dishonor the originals. And so far, no thunderbolt from the heavens, or from the people over at the British Museum, who also understand many of these issues. 6 down, 6 to go. You'll see those right here at this same counter a year from now. And here are the prints we created in the alternate months during the year. The first 6 in what also will be another set of 12, our Kyoto Journey series. Now, as most of you know or can obviously tell, these are being designed for us by longtime collaborator Jed Henry. The series isn't breaking new ground for us. It's a follow-on from the work he did for us a few years back, the Japan Journey, with the exceptions that the locale this time is a lot more tightly circumscribed, and the fact that I have given him more leeway in the question of the block count permitted. The prints in the Japan Journey series each used 4, occasionally 5 pieces of wood, resulting in a color count of 8 to 10 or so for each print. The prints in this series are taking 5 or 6 or more pieces of wood, with a resulting larger color count, and you can see the difference in the depth and complexity. It's all part of our devious plan, a very long-term plan, to build up an institutional knowledge of how to make Shin Hanga prints, designs that hew to the principles set up by Watanabe Shozaburo back in the early part of the 20th century, when he tried to create a new tradition of printmaking using the best feature of the old ukiyo-e prints, the collaboration between a team of top craftsmen and a top-level designer, and use this to produce new and interesting work. We're a bit late to that party, but year by year, we're making up for lost time. I think they're looking pretty good. There's one aspect to this series that Jed-san and I are a little bit struggling with. The set is made up of designs from Kyoto, but it's not intended to be a famous places of Kyoto set. We started out very quietly. In fact, nothing about these first 2 prints even tells you where you are. But we then included a couple of more recognizable places. And this is how it will go for the rest. We're not coming at Kyoto through the front door. We'll travel some byways too. Again, 6 down, 6 to go, and you'll see the full set of 12 a year from now. The next step in these update videos, following the overview of the prints just completed, is of course usually the announcement of the new subscription series. Now that's not going to happen this time. It'll be steady as she goes through 2024 as we continue work on the sets that you have just seen. As for what will come in 2025, you will simply have to wait a while. I myself have a pretty good idea what we might be making then, but it is far too soon for any announcements, and a great many details still need to be worked out. And this is a grotesque tease, I'm sorry. I can also see the 2026 series pretty well too, if I close my eyes and think about it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Ideas are cheap and easy. It's the execution. That's the tough part. So without a new series to introduce, let's just skip ahead to the next segment of our update message, the numbers. I'll start as usual picking up where I left off a year ago. I showed you this chart, one that clearly demonstrated our return from the dead. The bars in each group are months through the year. At the left is the Asakusa shop in purple. The green values in the middle column represent online orders through the website. The yellowish tone at the right is subscription. And this is 2019 pre-pandemic, 2020, 21, and then 22. This was last year. Now, the pre-pandemic pattern of the Asakusa shop, this sort of suspension bridge pattern with its seasonal peaks, had disappeared during the months of closure. But in the final few months of last year, it showed a strong revival. Let's have a replay of what I said about that in this update message 12 months ago. Asakusa has come back with a very, very, very big bang. I'm certain this is not going to be sustained. It represents the long pent-up demand from a group of die-hard Japanese fans who were eager to get over here as soon as they were allowed into the country. All I can expect from the coming year for Asakusa is that it return to something similar pattern to what we saw back in 2019. Time will tell. And time did tell. Let's add this past year to the chart. I had to add 2 more lines to the scale. Even the slower summer months this year were bigger than the pre-pandemic peak season. This place has been just crazy. It's of course totally quiet here this evening, but there were times when this room was so full of people, the fire department should have shut us down. One afternoon, I was behind the counter here helping somebody, and the front door opened. But the people couldn't get in. It was just so jammed. I made eye contact through the crowd, made a kind of a, can you come back gesture, and away they went. It has been nuts. Here in December now, it's a bit more relaxed, but whenever I think of what is in store for the cherry blossom season next spring, I feel like I just want to run and hide in a hole somewhere. Online here was expected to slump quite a bit because instead of the fans hitting the website, they were hitting the shop itself. And indeed, the annual total is very slightly lower. The subscription group shows a fun pattern. The overall revenue is stable as expected, given that we didn't raise the prices and couldn't increase production, but you can clearly see where we have a different pattern in the alternating months. Hokusai in the even numbers, beating out Jed in the other months. It seems Jed-san has quite a way to go before he builds up quite the same name value. Now, let's see what it all looks like when you put them together as well as go farther back in time. This is where we finished last year. It's the same coloring, Asakusa in purple, online in green, and subscriptions in yellow. But here with the addition of 2 other things. The red sections scattered here and there represent ukiyo-e heroes prints sent over to Jed-san for distribution at Comic Cons and similar venues. And the extensive gray section at the top of each column is the Patreon revenue, still a very substantial and much appreciated part of our income mix. Let's add 2023. I think we're going to need a bigger stand. Now I think at this point, if I were out there watching this video, I think I would be like, you've got to be kidding me. Japanese woodblock prints, traditional old-fashioned Japanese woodblock prints. The number here is just over 160 million yen in a year. You can look that up in your own currency. Surely this is not possible. Well, I'm here to tell you that yes, not only is this possible, this is where we have come to. I should perhaps at this stage add another data point. Any financial analysts, financial analysts out there who are watching this presentation trying to work out whether or not to recommend a buy on Mokuhankan stock, that'll be the day. They're calling a trick on this. Revenue growth in 2023? No big deal. Every company on this planet is showing strong revenue growth this year. It's inflation. Everybody has raised prices. Of course we show higher sales growth this year. In an inflationary environment, even no growth at all leaves your revenue charts looking just fine. That's not what's happening here. Look across the chart. Subscriptions, level. Online, basically level. The increase is all in one place, the return of tourists to Japan and the opening of the Asakusa shop. And this, unless I'm wrong, tells us something interesting. Now that all 3 legs of our operation are back up and running, I think that next year we should expect this to stable out at around this level or perhaps something even a bit lower as the revenge tourism settles back a bit. This is the last time you are going to see such a massive gain in our revenue. I expect and I want that we will hold at around this level from now on, at least for the reachable future. This increase has hugely stressed us and we have struggled to build up to handle it. And making that point, building up to handle this, is a perfect chance to segue to another topic, one that I haven't been keeping you properly up to date with in recent updates. Not sure how to do this. 2023, we're standing here. A couple of years back, there we were, a few years back. And then back in 2011, I'm standing here. Now, things were okay. And all the way back, 25 years, a quarter of a century, things were okay. But for all of that long stretch, 25 years, I worked alone. I traced, I carved, I printed. Boy, did I print. And I had no employees, other than someone to help with the packaging and shipping and the translation for the newsletters. It was only there in 2011, just when I turned 60, that I decided to change course and think about hiring other people to share the printmaking work. I first hired a local lady who showed interest in learning how to print, and she's actually still with us. And she's been joined by a few more. Now don't laugh, but I need a note here to keep track of this next part. The printmaking group is now, not counting me, 5 in-house printers, people who work here and are on the payroll. Carvers, again, not counting me, are now 3. More about this in a minute. 3 people now work over in our Ome building, packaging and shipping the prints. That's the place that used to be my home, but is now, all 4 floors of it, jammed with prints, packaging materials, cases, and wood blocks. Hundreds and hundreds of wood blocks. Now here in Asakusa, the 2nd floor, where we opened our first little shop space in 2014, that's now taken up with offices, and 5 people work up there. It's the nerve center of our operation, of course. Your orders are processed, prints are photographed, some shipping is done, and where all the back-end bookkeeping and endless related paperwork gets done. Now down here in the shop itself, there's 11 people now working, either full-time or in partial rotation, each working X days per week. Adding me at the end of that list gives 28 employees now for Mokuhankan. But even that's not the full story. We are also using the services of 3 independent professional printers and are keeping them very busy. They are not our employees legally, but they basically work for us full-time. That's 31 people. Now this starts to make sense. Now that we're on the topic of the people working here at Mokuhankan, 2 specific events happened this year that I need to update you on. We lost this year one of our very long-term, most productive printers. She would be very upset with me if I blabbed about her personal life, but I can mention that elder care became a major issue for her family, and she was unable to continue her printing career. She gave away her tools to the other workers here and left. She will not be back, nor will she be appearing in any more of the videos. As you've perhaps heard, Japanese society is facing substantial stresses as the population both declines in number and ages. And here we are. I'm sorry. The other staff update is in the opposite direction, and thus happier to relate. Many of you already know about this one. If you've been watching our Twitch streams, you've even met the person. Young Taran Casey from the UK, who has been here in Japan for 4 or 5 years now, studying the craft with my friend the carver Motoharu Asaka, has now joined us as a full-time employee. He'll be carving mostly, of course, and subscribers to our Hokusai Reborn series will soon see some of his work up close. But in addition, he will be helping me greatly with such things as color separations for the subscription prints, content for our Twitch streams, and also with YouTube production. Speaking of Taran and YouTube, this is the perfect time to let you know that he will be continuing to run his own YouTube channel, where he has just finished uploading the 3rd part of a series showing his work on our recent publication of Misty Day in Nikko, which he, of course, completely carved, a new reproduction of a Hiroshi Yoshida design from the 1930s. In those 3 videos, Taran-san goes into great detail on just how the sausage is made, and I cannot recommend them enough. Links in the description, of course. There are a few more short items that perhaps should be included in this video, as I know that many of the fans will want a status update on their situation. Viewers of our Twitch streams already know that we were selected for a full tax audit a couple of months ago, and this is actually still ongoing. I can report that we passed the initial stages of the audit easily. Our books are clean. We fully declare all our income and never inflate expenses. They could see that our record keeping was very well organized and accurate, and the original audit team found no fault with any of our affairs. Now, we thought we were in the clear and were actually ready to celebrate when they called us for a bit more information. Somebody higher up had queried why we had not been withholding taxes from the royalties that we paid to our designers. We replied that as these people were all foreigners living overseas, it hadn't been necessary. They asked us to provide proof of this, and we did so with a collection of passport scans and other similar documentation. They accepted this, and all went quiet for a time until they called again. Somebody still higher up had done a bit more digging and had discovered that we are indeed actually required to withhold taxes from royalties even when designers are not Japanese taxpayers. It's there down in the fine print of the tax code. Well, so be it. Not even the professionals who had been doing our annual tax preparation had known about this, and they were surprised when we updated them. But we told the tax people that we would now, of course, begin to do things this way, holding back 20.42%. I'm not making up the 42, it's 20.42% of all royalty payments and sending that money to the Japanese tax authorities. The lady I was dealing with over there said, "Thank you. And now let's talk about the missing withholdings for the past few years." Yes. Now, we are resisting to the extent possible, which is not much, but they're demanding that we pay all the withholdings that we should have made over the past few years, even though that money has, of course, already been sent to the designers, who, as far as we can tell, have paid taxes on it in their own countries, of course. The final amount hasn't been set yet, but Mokuhankan pays a lot of royalties to designers, and it looks like the amount we will need to send to the tax authorities will be somewhere around 4.5 million yen. Exchange rates have fluctuated a lot over the past couple of years, but using a rate from the middle of the time period in question, it amounts to something around 30,000 US dollars. Now, this isn't going to bankrupt us, and this is not a request for money, as you've already seen. We've sold a lot of prints this year. Our bank account is fine, and we will just swallow hard and make the payment. But man, it feels bitter. And this experience has greatly reduced any respect I previously had for the system here. Go after the criminals. I'm sure there's plenty of real tax evasion out there. And leave us alone. We're decent, hardworking people creating a ton of value for society. Not to mention a bunch of jobs. Anyway, cheer up, Dave. This one will soon be behind us. A very, very quick one next. Now, near the end of the update video last year, I flashed a graph showing how my time at the local fitness center had paid off in a reduction of my weight down to a normal level from the sort of corona belly that I had somehow built up during the pandemic. This was that graph. Good boy, Dave. And here, let's see how this has played out over the year just ending. Yes, what comes off in Asakusa stays off in Asakusa. 1 kilometer in the pool weekday mornings and no more silly snacks after dinner. There's your formula. Another easy, quick up. I don't know whether to laugh or cough. I'm sorry. Another easy, quick update point comes to us from our shipping department. After more than 2.5 years of disruption caused by, you know what, the Japanese post office finally resumed acceptance of standard packet shipping methods a couple of months ago. For an organization like ours, making our basic living by sending small subscription prints all over the planet, this was the best news in years. Now, we're not completely out of the woods yet. Our next shipping challenge is to work on the import taxation issues faced by all of our European customers. But at least one massive problem has now been resolved. Now, that's pretty much it, except that there is one more topic that I want to touch on before I finally wrap this up. The massive increase in activity this year, this past couple of years, has stretched and strained all our systems here. And we've made constant adjustments all the way along. We've reassigned people to help out their co-workers, redone our office layouts, we've adjusted job descriptions where necessary, and of course, we've taken on more people, as you have heard. I myself have benefited from this, as people are now helping me with many parts of the work that were previously my sole responsibility. The upstairs printers are now doing most of their own sizing work. That's an essential part of the paper preparation. The people in the office working on the bookkeeping have, of course, taken a great deal of work away from me. Ayano-san, she's now completely running both the subscription management and the customer relations work, answering all incoming emails and dealing with the endless requests and adjustments to orders that pass through. And I no longer touch any of the preparation for our flea market, the antique prints corner of our shop. This is all handled by Aya Watanabe and her assistants. But even with all this wonderful delegation taking place, I'm still, yet again, struggling to keep my head above water. I have fallen hugely behind in the carving work. We're now in the 4th week of December, and just yesterday morning, I finally finished the block set for the latest Hokusai print, the one due to be shipped in the 1st week of January. The Surfer Girl blocks are waiting on a shelf beside my carving bench. And the block set for the Evening Bell design in the 8 Views of Cats series is waiting for me to supplement it with 1 or maybe 2 more color blocks. The key block for Boys with an Inkstone, who out there even remembers that one, is also close at hand on a shelf there. Some of these jobs clearly will now need to be shifted to Taran-san for his assistance. Over and above these things though, there's another major function that has become part of my daily activity. Something that has grown hugely over the past year, and one that is utterly unable to be delegated to anyone else in our organization. Dealing with visitors who have come here to see me. Now, visitors here have always been a mix of people who knew nothing about us and those who previously knew about Mokuhankan, either from guidebooks or Google search or of course, social media. In either case, we would chat a bit, they would perhaps pick up something from the shop, and that would be that. But now, everything has changed. Among the visitors on any given day, the flood of visitors every day, most of them know about us. They have perhaps watched some Twitch streams or some YouTube video, lots of YouTube video. These people not just know about us, they have come here to see us. There are even some, and I am not making this up, there are people who tell us they basically decided to come to Japan in order to come and visit Mokuhankan. Day after day, as I sit there at my carving bench, trying to get at least a token bit of work done, in the door they come. Singles, couples, and groups. My bench is near the door, and as I look up, I always see the same thing. The eyes bright, the face happy. I'm here is the message that comes from them. Of course, we talk. They are happy to be here, and I'm happy to meet them. Not everybody buys prints, but that's pretty much irrelevant. We have meaningful and enjoyable human interaction. And away they go. And minutes later, in comes somebody else, and off we go again. Now, please understand, I am not in any way complaining about this. It is a ton of fun. And I mean, talking all day with interesting people who like what we are doing and who have come to tell us so, that doesn't really get stale. You can see this YouTube effect clearly in this final, I promise, the final chart today. This is monthly revenue over the years, including everything. Shop visits, online orders, and subscriptions. I've labeled a few key points. The original Ukiyo-e Heroes Kickstarter campaign. Opening of the Asakusa shop. And this is the moment when YouTube began to recommend the Remembering a Carver video. When things really started to take off. The moment that actually totally changed my life. Over here, you can see the dip from the pandemic, followed by the stratospheric rise from the return of tourism to Japan. And this is, of course, why I have been so delinquent in producing new video content this year. It's a crazy paradox. So many people have been here to say, thank you for the wonderful videos, that I haven't been able to make any videos. Now, at this point, I'm kind of at a loss as to how to proceed. I honestly don't see how I can delegate anybody to help me with this. Should I hide upstairs and have the staff tell visitors, sorry, Dave's not here today? then creep down at night after the shop is closed to do my carving? Or should we rent a room somewhere away from this building where I hibernate and work in isolation? I just don't know what to do. At the moment, all I can say is that I'm hoping that over the next couple of cold winter months, the number of visitors will drop back enough so that I can get at least a couple of interesting videos uploaded before the cherry blossom season arrives yet again. Okay, there we are. Has this been a positive update? I hope so. We are gloriously successful. Our printers are working at full capacity, doing a magnificent job. Orders are pouring in, and beautiful prints are flying out the door day after day. Everybody on the team is hustling and bustling all through the day. And every day, as I said, all kinds of people come in the front door. They come in smiling, and we try and make sure that when they leave, they are smiling even more. And that, of course, is my cue to shut this down, get it edited and uploaded, and get to work on the next one. Maybe a David's Choice video, or perhaps the next one in the beginning series where I take on the Poets series. The Hokusai Reborn system needs another video. And I still have to do the third part, the epilogue, for that Remembering a Carver series. There's still more to that story. There are more themes waiting than I could finish if I lived to be 199. Time to get busy. Thank you again, everybody. It has been another wonderful year, and it is impossible to express it thoroughly enough to our fans and supporters. From all of us here at Mokuhankan, thank you all. Thank you so much. Good night for now.